Aren't these just supposed to be holograms? What's up YouTube, Capital G here, talking about the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime series in this video and just how dangerous it can be for anyone who decides to duel in it. At this point, I think we're used to the typical BS about how dueling can decide the fate of souls, destiny, or even save entire planets, hell, the galaxy if you count Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Season 3, and I think it needs to be brought up just how violent and dangerous these duels actually are. And I'm not talking about the typical if I lose I get carded or sent to the stars or lose my souls type of crap. I'm actually talking about instances where people suffered serious injuries, whether they be physical, mental, life-threatening, or even in some cases, yes, life-ending injuries as a result of dueling. And I'm going to go ahead and double down and eliminate any duels where people were absorbed, faded away, died again, or really just died because they lost a duel and not because of the injuries that they suffered because of the actual duel. Now, just so we're clear, I'll be ranking these on not just the severity of the injury, but also how creative the injury actually was in the context to the duel. Now, since I am discussing the anime, I think it should pretty much go without saying I am going to issue a heavy spoiler warning in this video. With that said, welcome to the top 10 Yu-Gi-Oh! Characters who nearly / actually died because of a duel, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Hierarchy. Number 10, Weevil Underwood versus Atem, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters. I could have also went with Solomon Moto, aka Grandpa, in his first duel against Seto Kaiba, where he was actually hospitalized, but the impact of this one just seemed greater. If you haven't guessed it by now, this is actually the duel where the Monster Kado meme comes from.
Monster Kado! Monster Kado!
Where Atem basically beats the soul out of Weevil. Even worse than that, the train that they're riding on derails and kinda falls off a cliff. It's never adequately explained how they survived the fall, and by they, I mainly mean Taya and Weevil, but they do somehow survive, and we know that Weevil does end up in a hospital. Number 9, Aoi Zaizen in her duel versus Spectre, Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains. Who says you can't get hurt in the Vrains just because it's cyberspace? This one was a little bit heartbreaking for some and extremely gratifying for others. Aoi put up an amazing fight and she went into the duel with a well thought out plan that she executed brilliantly. The problem was Spectre was just always one step ahead of her. Like when he banished all 3 copies of Trickstar Reincarnation, add that to the fact that he was basically running a deck that could completely counter her burn strategy, and he ran multiple cards that gave him life points. I'd also like to point out that this just wasn't a typical heated duel between enemies. Spectre went out of his way to employ psychological warfare and really mess with Aoi's head to further demoralize her when it became evident that she couldn't win. It's already been established in the show that you can sustain real damage while in the Vrains. While Aoi's future is unclear right now, I think this speaks volumes. Number 8, Jaden Yuki in his first duel versus Aster, Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. This one's pretty interesting because while Jaden didn't receive any physical injuries, there was definitely some psychological damage. Up until this point in the show, Jaden had an almost flawless record, including multiple wins against Obelisk Blue students like Chaz and Alexis, and he even took down the Shadow Riders. His only real blemish was an outright loss to Zane, which was perfectly understandable considering that he was the #1 ranked duelist in the entire academy, but this loss to Aster really shook up Jaden, so much so that he even suffered a panic attack. It could be because of the way that Aster absolutely dominated him in the duel from start to finish, or maybe it was all the trash talk that finally got to him. All I know is that Jaden wasn't the same for a few episodes, and while yes, I understand that a panic attack isn't exactly life-threatening, many sources have actually said that these symptoms can make it feel like your life is about to end. Number 7, My Valentine in her duel versus Marik, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters. Dueling in a dark or shadow duel can already be tough enough. Not only are the stakes significantly higher, but the pain you suffer when taking damage is totally real. It's even tougher, however, when you're dueling against a total fucking psychopath like Marik. Make no mistake, Marik didn't give two craps about Mai's well-being in this duel, and he even brazenly commanded the Winged Dragon of Ra to outright kill her. This isn't even mentioning that prior to this, Mai was being electrocuted while being held down against her will by holding arms. I wish I could say that this was the end of her suffering, but sadly, after losing the duel, Marik imprisoned Mai inside of her own mind, where she was forced to endure countless mental torture. Number 6, Odion in his duel versus Joey, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters. Odion sure is a loyal guy. Not only did he essentially throw his entire life and pursuit of happiness away to serve the Ishtar family, but he basically did it again in this duel. Incredibly enough, he managed to outduel Joey and could have easily won the duel outright, but no, Master Marik in his infinite wisdom decided he had to win using a fake Egyptian god card. This of course pissed off the real Winged Dragon of Ra, who decided to start smiting down people with lightning bolts. If you're unaware, in the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters anime, not only do the god cards possess feelings, but apparently jealousy is one of them, because that made sense to the writers, somehow. While the lightning bolt that struck Odion didn't kill him, it did put him in a coma. Number 5, Yusei Fudo in his duel versus Kallen, Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. In a show about dueling on motorcycles going 200 miles per hour, someone was eventually either going to get killed in a crash or damn near close to it. It should be noted that because of collisions during the duel, Yusei's D-Will took a significant amount of damage, which when combined with an attack from an Earthbound Immortal monster was enough to ultimately throw him off his bike. Technically, this duel was inconclusive and Yusei didn't officially lose, but if he didn't crash, he was probably about to. So as crazy as this sounds, maybe the crash wasn't actually a bad thing. Oh wait, I forgot about the jagged rock that almost went clean through his chest. On second thought, you know what, I think it actually was a bad thing. Number 4, Yuzu Hiragi in her duel versus Sergei, Yu-Gi-Oh! Art V. I think I was pretty clear in our last entry, but let me go ahead and just double down. Dueling while traveling 200 plus miles per hour on a motorcycle is not only really dangerous, but it's really fucking stupid. Furthermore, unlike Yusei Fudo, Yuzu was completely inexperienced and had never ridden on a dual runner prior to the Friendship Cup. Hell, I'm not even sure that she actually has her driver's license. With that said, it didn't particularly bode well for her that her second round opponent was a sadist mind-controlled maniac in Sergei, who took utter pleasure in watching her suffer. In the climax of her duel, Yusei was attempting to reach out for an action card when Sergei violently rammed her off course. This alone could have caused a fairly nasty crash, but nothing that the girl wouldn't have walked away from under her own power, but instead, because of her mentioned inexperience and the explosion caused by battling monsters, this is what happened to her. Number 3, Zane Truesdale in his duel versus Yubel and Evil Jesse, Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. If you've ever watched the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime, you know that dueling can be pretty intense, but a duel so intense it causes heart failure? Welcome to the world of Yu-Gi-Oh! Where just about anything is possible. When Zane entered the Dark World, he revealed to his younger brother Cyrus that the underground duels he had racked up over the previous semester had actually caused irreversible heart damage, and he didn't think that he had that much time before his heart would ultimately give out. These underground duels, for anyone who's unfamiliar, are duels where a player would receive a violent electrical shock anytime that they took damage. Thinking that Jaden was still too mentally scarred from being the Supreme King to duel against Jesse, Zane stepped up to settle the score and attempt to save Jesse from Yubel at the same time. Yubel warned him in the beginning that this was going to be a violent duel, and she was not kidding. In the end, the Dark Duel was simply too much for Zane's heart to take, and he lost out to his own power bond effect as his heart gave out as well.
印を受ける。
It was later discovered by Cyrus that the damage to Zane's heart was not caused by the underground duels, but instead the underground deck, which of course is Cyberdarks. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Cyberdarks are so bad that playing them too long can literally kill you.
兄さんはこんなデッキを。そうか、兄さんの体を蝕んでいたのは地下デュエルの電気ショックのせいじゃない。このデッキ自体の影響で。
Number 2, Kaito Tenjou and his duel versus Mizar, Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal. Let me cut right to the chase here. This battle actually killed Kaito. With that said, Kaito was an incredibly intelligent character who was a very capable duelist. Some would argue that he was the best duelist on the entire Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal series, but his decision making could often be questionable. In his final duel in Zexal, Kaito squared off against the Baryon Mizar to decide who was the one and only true Galaxy Eyes master. The duel itself, which Kaito won, didn't necessarily kill him, rather the damage that the duel did on his spacesuit. While Baryons have no problems being out there in the vacuum of space, we humans on the other hand obviously cannot survive it, and those Baryon powered number Xyz monsters pack a serious punch, especially a 4500 attack Chaos Techon Dragon. Too many attacks and eventually Kaito's suit suffered critical damage, thus claiming his life. And finally, to our number 1, Carmine in her duel versus Sayer, Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. How could this not be number 1 on the list? This is arguably the most savage thing in the entire Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds anime, and that's saying a lot because that show has quite the body count. While doing a bit of after hours investigating on the Arcadia movement, Carly was caught and ultimately confronted by Sayer, the founder and the leader of the movement, having the brilliant idea of why pay this amateur reporter off when, you know, good old-fashioned murder still is a heck of a lot cheaper and a heck of a lot more permanent. He immediately challenged her to a duel. Not only did his psychic power monsters give Carly quite the shock, but they actually launched her with enough force to break through a glass window. It goes without saying that Carly fell about 20 stories out of that window to her death, and in case you were watching the dub version where she simply falls into a shadowy mist, make no mistake here, she does indeed hit the ground and it kills her instantly. In fact, it's later revealed after she breaks free of the darkness after being revived as a dark signer that this fall left her completely blind. But then again, I guess there's a valuable lesson to be learned here. If you have to pick one deck to defend your very life, make sure it isn't Fortune Ladies. So let me know what you guys thought of my list. Were there any other crazy Yu-Gi-Oh! Injuries or characters that almost died while dueling, or that maybe did die while dueling? Anyways, leave it in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already and turn on that notification bell for daily videos.